Because a good song is a good song.
Okay.
You know, and you can jazz it up or do it with whatever rhythm you like. But if the song is there, it stands.
When musical groups become successful, or musicians, or really when anybody in the public eye becomes successful, immediately there are rumors about their personal lives, and I suppose the fact that some people are caught in the possession of certain unlawful substances like marijuana or cocaine or LSD or speed. A lot of people say that's all they do. They smoke a lot of grass, they eat a lot of LSD, they're all acid heads, and they're all rocked out. How much of it is there going on in truth?
I wouldn't know, you know. I mean, what do I know?
Come on, John. Come on.
I know as much as you.
Come on.
In truth, how much of it goes on where? You know, it depends.
Well, in your little coterie of friends.
My friends are as clean as a whistle.
I'm sure they are. As a hound's tooth, in the words of General Eisenhower.
Bye.
Warren.
Jeff, how are you?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man, good to see you.
Looking sharp.
Pete, thank you. I was trying to compete with you there.
Yeah, well, someone got the memo.
We were right about the black.
I agree.
Oh, so I wanted to prep one thing with you to make sure that I was going to lead with a joke.
Okay.
But I wanted to make sure you knew it was a joke before I said it, so it didn't catch you off guard.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Tom Snyder. I don't know if you're even old enough to remember Tom Snyder.
I've studied. Right.
Oh, good. I got both your levels. You both sound fantastic.
Tom Schneider actually said one of the most ironic things I've ever seen. He was interviewing the famous John Lennon interview. You know, it was like one of his last interviews he ever gave. And he's talking to him about the drugs, and he says, you know, do you think it's a weird message to be smoking marijuana and you're a role model for the, you know, the youth of America? And John's giving his answer, and Tom Schneider lights up a cigarette.
But certainly, you'd be surprised how people who appear on television or people who appear before audiences are looked towards for some kind of personal insight into the world or their own lives that a lot of times those people don't even have.
Now, do you feel like you're a role model? You know, it was like before cigarettes were considered to be unhealthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he had that show in the 90s, too.
Well, remember Aykroyd used to do great Tom Snyder, too, you know.
Great. So is this camera rolling?
Yes. Okay. Can I get like a late night with David Letterman cup?
I was actually thinking that. I'll get mugs made up for my next one.
Okay. Ready anytime you are, boss?
Just let me know when it's tight on me, and then as soon as I introduce Warren, you do like the slow pan back.
You got it? I am tight on you.
Welcome to Jeff Waful +1.
Oh, is it?
Plus, they need a few minutes to like.
Would you be okay doing
Yeah,
it?
they're gonna be like.
Is that okay? I'll do my best. Yeah, then I'll just move you to a later slot.
Yeah, kind of.
4 in the morning.
Party in the back.
He wants to have some fun today.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
First y'all agree.
We gotta get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Do you really? Yeah. Well, we'll make sure you'll be done by then. We'll bring it down to bass and drums, and we'll go back to the head of the tune. And end with wham 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 Bobby.
Yeah, but 3 times.
Yeah, on the last one.
Yeah.
Where would normally be the last
right.
one. That'll be the ending.
Yeah.
And what happens between the end of the second head and the beginning of the third head, nobody knows. So
That's right. When we would normally take it up a step, go down.
Bring it down and way down to jazz land. And let
Okay.
Carl blow, and 3 minutes later we'll be back.
When you start the guitar solo, we'll really
That's
take it in
exactly.
overdrive. And when
We'll even stay down for a while with me, and I'll
Yeah.
go into like
Okay.
Santana world.
Well, let's talk about Government Mule. You've been touring full-time for at least 15 years and doing it pretty much 100 shows a year, give or take. And now suddenly a decision to take a break, concentrate on the Warren Haynes Band. Why 2011?
I think it would have probably come sooner had Andy Hess not left the band. When Andy left the band, we were probably approaching that time period when we needed to take a break, a well-deserved break, I might add. When Andy left the band, there was this search to find a new bass player, which wound up being Jorgen Carlson, who is a great fit. Then it would have been really weird to go, okay, we just hired a new bass player, let's take a year off, you know. So 2 years later, it's probably still a little bit weird for Jorgen, but I think for the rest of us, it's apropos, and he understands historically why this is important for us to do this.
You talked about the new bass player, and you've certainly played with probably more legendary bass players than any musician on the planet as far as different bass players over the course of time, and of course the Deep End project had a lot to do with that. Talk about how different bass players change your playing.
I think I tend to key off of the bass maybe more than even the average musician. I don't know. I like to hear a lot of bass on stage when I'm playing. I'm listening to the bass constantly. I love the interaction between the bass and the guitar. And obviously, Gov't Mule was founded as a trio, so the interaction between the three musicians was supremely important. That was the mission, you know, was to have the best chemistry we could possibly have, which means listening to each other all the time, you know. And I guess that's why I'm drawn to bass players that play with a lot of personality.
What I like to do is do the melody twice, and then I take it into a B-flat groove and we get fucked down. I don't play none of that middle bullshit.
Yeah, I don't even know if I remember the middle.
Good. I don't need it.
Let's talk about Alan Woody, because of course you just had the 10th year anniversary and you did another one for Woody.
Yeah.
First of all, when you have such a close relationship with someone like that, just not only as a friend but as a touring mate, a brother, but that musical chemistry, do you ever sort of close your eyes on stage and get into that zone and still feel his presence, especially when you're doing a big show in his honor like that?
Yeah, absolutely. At the one for Woody, at the original One for Woody concert, and then again at the 10th anniversary, his presence was overwhelming. And as far as on a normal night, more so with Jorgen in the band than anybody we've played with, there's something uncannily eerie about the instinctual approach that Jorgen has to the bass guitar, which is in some ways similar to Alan Woody's. And it's odd enough that they would be similar, Woody being from Tennessee and Jorgen being from Sweden. But that approach is it's not a normal approach. They both play with this reckless abandon that gets most bass players fired. So, and it's funny because Jorgen and I spoke when he first joined the band. He reminded me of this recently, that I told him that you can play all the stuff in this band that usually gets you fired from most bands. And that's kind of our motif in a lot of ways, is put your whole personality into the music. Don't hold back and don't second guess how someone else would approach it. Approach it the way you feel in the moment. And
is that what someone would have to do to get fired from your band, is to play it too normal?
Play it safe, probably, yeah.
You're out of here.
We're not much on firing, you know, but going back to Alan Woody, he was just such a product of his influences, but his influences were chosen very carefully. If you didn't play that way, he didn't have a lot of respect for your contribution, you know. And it wasn't in a mean way. That was just the way he felt about things. And through the years, we were such close friends that I could really understand where he was coming from when he picked his favorites, you know, and I could see why he picked them. And somehow all those people combined added up to Alan Woody.
When it's really clicking, I mean, we're all in this room together. The spirit of
We've been playing a long time together, and I think it's a matter of trust at this point.
Yeah, I trust Matt to always do something that I don't expect.
And that's improvisation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is part of improvisation in the way that, like, somebody plays something you don't expect and it influences what you play next. And, you know,
when Woody was here, we had a really fun time doing that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We laughed, especially the first couple of years. I mean, that's what it was all about. We laughed and laughed and laughed for about 3 years straight.
you've played with so many different musicians, not just bass players, but all the different bands that you've toured with full time. Now you have this new project. I wanted to talk about the balance between playing with someone like Matt Abbs, for example, or Alan Woody, where you can just make eye contact and give a little look, and they know you're playing, and you have this telepathic connection, versus the freshness that you get with playing someone new, where they might catch you off guard, but there's a freshness injected into the playing.
Well, when you're first trying to form some sort of musical relationship, the chemistry is the key. If you find someone that you can play with and the music automatically kind of goes where it's supposed to go without verbal communication, then that's a chemistry worth building on. Beyond that is where you take that chemistry, which is really mostly about keeping the unit together. The longer you can stay together, the more you can play together, the more you're going to learn about each other's vocabulary. And I'm fortunate to have shared that experience with a lot of different great musicians, Matt Abbs that you brought up and Alan Woody. We never talked about where the improvisation was going to go, or I say never, very, very seldom. Usually it just went where it was going to go naturally, and that's why that chemistry worked. But at the same time, if you listened year by year, it got better and better and better and better. Now, compare that to what you're suggesting, the freshness factor from playing with other musicians who are great in their own right and offer something new that you don't expect. That's the first date syndrome. That's where everybody's on their best behavior and they're learning about each other, and you're paying more attention to what the other person is doing than what you're doing yourself. And a lot of great music is created that way as well. That's the way we made this new record, Man in Motion. We took a very old school approach. I handpicked my absolute #1 choices for the record. Everybody was available. We went in and I would show the musicians the song. We would rehearse a couple of times and then start recording. And you know, the musicianship was at such a high level that we were able to take that kind of approach and make records in a spontaneous way like that, you know. But, you know, these guys, I've worked with most of them off and on as well. There's something wonderful about discovering a new chemistry, and anytime you play with another musician, it's a learning experience.
It is different playing with people for the first time. You know, it's like being on a date. You know, everybody's on their best behavior, and they're trying not to piss each other off, you know. Whereas with us, I mean, we're trying to piss each other off. You know, it's like being married. You know, it's like, hey, if I do this, it'll really piss him off. You know.
Yeah, right.
And all that works in music. That's the beauty of music, is laughing, crying, smiling, being angry. It all translates to good music.
Did you get lucky tonight on first date?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna have some. Well, okay. You can look at that two different ways, Jeff.
One of the themes that comes up touring, in my experience, is that the guys are always calling home to their wives or their girlfriends, and it's hard being away. It's hard in relationships of any kind, families. You seem to have found the perfect solution by marrying your manager, and I'm wondering what that balance is like, as far as she can never say, "Oh, you're going out on tour again," because you know she booked it. Is it an interesting balancing act? Is it a unique one?
It is, you know, and I think we've kind of, I think we've built a cool working relationship and partnership and team together. You know, at the same time, I can't fire my manager. That would get me in big trouble.
Right.
But who wants to fire their manager? You know,
well,
hopefully you don't get into that.
You said you don't fire a lot of people.
I'm not into firing. When I first met Stephanie, I had a manager who has since passed away. So when Gov't Mule first formed in late '94, Alan Woody didn't have a manager and Matt Abbs didn't have a manager, so the band kind of inherited my manager. Then somewhere about a year later, maybe a couple years later, they came to me one day and said they were dissatisfied with our management situation, and would I feel comfortable if Stephanie was our manager, that they wanted Stephanie to be our manager, and was I okay with that? And of course my response was, well, it puts me in an awkward position. Once again, I'm not able to fire my manager, but if you're asking me if I think she would do a great job, yeah, I think she would do a great job. And they're like, well, are you okay with that? And I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And so it was their idea. Alan Woody in particular, who talked to Matt about it, and then the two of them talked to me about it. So from that point forward, we just figured out how to make it work. And just because she's the one booking the tour and adding even more dates doesn't mean she's not on the phone going, you need to come home. You know,
right.
Yeah, she's capable of that as well. But yeah, it does make it easier. You know,
she could fly in too. It's business.
Yeah, she can choose when and where she wants to come in, but it still makes it hard. It's easier,
right,
this way, but I don't know that it's ever easy. And you know, I've even heard people talk about in Hollywood marriages. You know, you always wonder, well, they're breaking up all the time. Well, maybe if you didn't marry another movie star, you wouldn't break up all the time. But people theorize that that's the only way it can work, that if one's in the business and one's not, it's too hard.
Right.
And maybe there's something to that. I know it works for us and John Schofield and some people that are in similar type situations. You know, Phil. It seems to be more and more.
Right.
But in Stephanie's case, she was in the music business when I first met her, and has been, you know, for over 20 years. So watching her career grow has been interesting as well, because when I first met her, she was just starting to do A&R for Island Records, and she's done so many things since then, as you know. It's interesting, you know. We try and work together as much as possible on it, and I trust her instincts on so much stuff, and it definitely makes it a little easier. But
do you have to set rules when you're trying to vacation and say, we're not going to talk about business, we're just going to have one night where we're, you know, looking out at the water, reading the paper on a Sunday, no business talk? Sometimes
she will get saturated and say, can we just not talk business now, you know, or she's had a really long day. I'm not quite as much that way. I guess being a musician, I've never clocked in and out. You know, my mind's always thinking the same way it is at, you know, at 4 in the morning as it is in 2 in the afternoon. But sometimes you just got to step back and go, hey, let's deal with this in the light of day.
I obviously travel with Humphreys McGee, and we have a certain lifestyle.
Which one of those guys is Humphreys again?
I believe it's the lead singer.
Yeah,
the short guy.
The short guy that in the high heels.
Right.
Yeah.
He did wear high heels actually. He lost a bet.
Let's say it's easy to maintain an unhealthy lifestyle. Right. One of the things I've started doing recently is to, when my instincts tell me maybe we're getting a little too far, to kind of back off and go, no, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens if we go even further.